The latest patch 0.15.2 on Escape from Tarkov is here, and it is going to potentially revolutionize how PvE actually works within the game, what you can do, and the potential options to play the game itself. And there's obviously a few reasons you may or may not have already seen the patch notes. They've been available for a day when this one actually goes live, but the point in this video is to discuss how these things are going to impact the actual game that we all play, and I'm really interested to see what you guys actually think as well, as always in the comment section, because at the end of the day, my voice and my opinion is only one, and you guys have a ton of other opinions which are probably not the exact same as mine, but at the same time, it's an interesting discussion that I think is really valuable, and I enjoy making the videos because of that. Before we jump into the actual content for today's video, of course, make sure to like the video if you enjoy them, and of course I'll jump in now. Map-to-map travel is in the game right now, and it's available in PvE mode as well. And one of the biggest things that I think is going to impact the PvE experience is that not only can you run the actual map-to-map travel as your PMC, but you can also do it as a scav. And I think that the scav could be a really interesting thing that we'll probably do a couple of videos on to kind of highlight some of the things that you can do as a scav traveling between all the locations, and seeing if we can do a little challenge or something like that to see how much loot, how much rare loot we can get just by playing as a scav going through all of the different maps. I think that could be a kind of interesting one, and hopefully not getting taken out by any of the PMCs. And yeah, the transitions, obviously for those of you that haven't seen, are from Streets of Tarkov to Ground Zero. So just as an overview, you can go between pretty much every single map and every other map. Some of the maps require you to go to different maps to be able to then go to the one that you want to go from if you start on a specific one. So of course, if you start on Streets, you have the ability to only go to Ground Zero, and then you've got Interchange to Streets of Tarkov, you've got Customs to Reserve, Customs to Interchange, Factory to Customs, Factory to the Lab, you've got Woods to the Factory, Woods to the Lighthouse, Reserve to Customs, Reserve to Woods, and then Lighthouse to Reserve, Lighthouse to Woods, Shoreline to Lighthouse. So in terms of some of the things that you might want to do if you're wanting to kind of maximize profit, and if you're comfortable with playing multiple maps in a row with all of your gear and not actually banking any of that gear away, then you might actually want to run maybe potentially a, Streets of Tarkov going to Ground Zero or something like that to pick up a ton of loot on Streets. Alternatively, maybe you want to run something like a Woods raid that then goes to Factory, and Factory then over to the Lab, as you can enter through there. So the Lab is going to be obviously a really good location to get at the end, and it kind of gives you the option to play and have increased lengths of time where you can go around, you can loot up, you can do your tasks without having to go and reset your raid, come out of the raid, and you're doing all of that. Especially for example, tasking is going to make it significantly easier, whereby you can go complete one task and then you can complete the second task on a completely different map rather than having to reload in. And you just have to go to the transit locations on the actual map. So in terms of PvE, this is going to be really, really useful, because I assume that you aren't going to meet any real resistance at the actual transit points themselves. You're not going to have any of the rats that are going to be sat at the transit points waiting for people to try and transit to a different map, which is great for PvE. And it also gives you just that option to have more challenges. Maybe you want to challenge yourself to go between every single map in the game. And I think that is kind of cool, and something that you should definitely try out, even if you don't really want to do it as a kind of strategy to get some of your tasks done or whatever. But I think it is still a valid one, especially when it comes to taking out things. It's quite easy to, bring in two different weapons that are required for a task and go on one map and then go to the next map straight after, provided that, you can stack up those tasks so that one map can go to the next map that you need for that task. Obviously, some of those tasks might not line up to the point where maybe you don't actually have a possibility of going directly to the next map, so it's just better to extract and go in to the next one. But at the same time, I think it's a really, really good option, and I think that this is something that is just going to make PvE more exciting, something else to do. which obviously we haven't seen very many updates for PvE, at least recently, within the game, primarily because I guess the wipe has just happened. There's a lot of bug fixes, a lot of things that kind of have gone wrong, and yes, some people's accounts definitely got, how do we say, wronged by the latest update, with people's accounts being completely wiped, which is a absolute fat L by BSG. I don't know what they were doing, but yeah, that absolutely sucks. But hopefully everyone gets their accounts back or restored, or maybe because of the fact that they had this problem literally on the day of wipe or a few days before the wipe, where there was kind of a wipe by accident by BSG, that hopefully they'll essentially do something or have put in place a system to recover all of the accounts. I don't know as of the recording of this video, and if you're watching this in the future, well, maybe they did do that and it has actually come out. Otherwise, people have lost their accounts, and although I expect that there would be some kind of compensation to those of people who have been affected if they don't have an account, like a backup or anything like that at the moment, then yeah, it's still not going to be the same. You're going to lose a lot, but hopefully they buff up your level to the point where you previously were, or something like that. It would, you know, it's going to be something that people are going to want. Luckily, I didn't play during the initial launch of the new update or patch, which meant that I didn't lose my account, but a lot of people were affected, and it definitely sucks for sure. So a little bit more as to kind of how it affects the PvE is that, yes, you can play as a scav. So I think that this is probably where a lot of people are going to test out this mechanic, test out where you can go. And as a scav, you know, you could scav all sorts of locations, and whether or not, I don't know if it is 100% possible, but potentially you could get into the lab as a scav, maybe. And that would be kind of cool, because that's not been possible so far. It would definitely not be optimal, because the lab is very, I guess the AI is very aggressive on labs anyway. So, you know, if you do get taken out having gone through a different map to get into the lab itself, it would be kind of sucky if you do get taken out by someone just one-tapping you in the head, for example. Yeah, that is definitely going to suck. But at the same time, obviously, it's not really costing you anything to do it. And of course, as a scav, you can go in, you can do whatever you want to do. Often, if it is required, now I haven't tested it myself, but I'm sure some of you have potentially. But maybe you need a lab's access keycard on your scav to get into the lab in the first place using the transit. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but it should be a pretty quick transit over there if it is possible, because it's on factory to the lab, and factory scav super quick to do. And if you don't get a lab's keycard, if you do require it, you can just get out, and the actual extract is pretty easy to get to, or transit location for factory anyway. So yeah, I think that it's a pretty good one that it is on factory, as opposed to a different map where, you know, you're going to spawn halfway across the map and have to run an absolute ton to get there. So definitely going to be a very interesting thing to test out the whole scavving and stuff like that on all of the different maps for a lot of people. I'll probably still play my PMC because I don't really find scavs too fun. I guess we could just cause havoc by calling over all of the bosses and actual AI to actually help us out in the raids. If you've got a 6 scav rep, then you can do that by just calling them over and asking for help. But yeah, either way, I think it's going to be cool. And there'll be some cool videos coming out, hopefully, that will kind of showcase all of these different things as well, and how you can do various different things that maybe you shouldn't be able to do in the game. Anyway, some marathon event tasks as well as the marathon achievement have been adjusted but remain available for completion. Transit activation time is also now 1 minute after the start of the raid, so you know you don't have to wait a long time to be able to actually activate the transit. Of course, one of the biggest things, mortar strikes have been added into the game. This thing is, well, it's going to create some exciting dynamic to a lot of the maps, because of the fact that, you know, maybe you're going to fight a boss or something and you call in a mortar strike, and hey, that boss is not looking too good right now. Whether or not the AI are going to call in mortar strikes, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't played enough to actually have that happen. But yeah, I mean, that could be pretty annoying if you're just running along the map and suddenly you just get mortar striked out of nowhere. But yeah, it could be an interesting thing to try out against some of the AI, especially the bosses. If you're struggling to deal with some of the bosses, hopefully that could help you out. The locals have found a stockpile of mortars and now regularly shelling the open terrain from safe positions. During the event, the following locations will be targeted by mortar fire, so customs, woods, shoreline and reserve. So those are the areas that you can. Mortar attacks occur in PvP and PvE, obviously, and the practice modes. Scavs, bosses and other bots react appropriately when mortar strikes attacks start, so I would assume that they're going to try and run away when the mortar strike happens to avoid people being able to just take out the bosses instantly, but we know it's Tarkov's AI system, so it's probably going to be garbage and you can still take them out anyway. But yeah, added a new task line, and there's a ton of task lines, by the way, that they've added in with this latest patch, so it's pretty cool. There's been a ton more tasks added in, and they should be kind of nice ones to complete, giving you a couple of different kind of unlocks and stuff like that as well. Players will be able to obtain unique rewards related to the event for completing the tasks. So when you do that, you'll be able to get a special equipment item that warns about the start of mortar fire in advance to help avoid dangerous areas. So that will tell you when there's a mortar strike coming in. So pretty handy. Especially for PvE, PvP really. A special consumable item that initiates mortar fire at the player's position. So this is what you can actually kind of start a mortar strike with, as opposed to them just being random on the maps that you're playing. So customs, wood, shoreline and reserve. Players will receive a unique achievement as a reward for finishing the task line, available only during the event. So I highly recommend you go on, you start doing the event mortar strike to be able to complete that. So as a bit of background, there are 6 tasks that you can complete as part of the kind of event quest chain. First one is Into the Inferno, which essentially is you just having to visit an active mortar strike in any of the specified maps. So you literally just have to go and find one and you can complete it. Now the reason why you're going to want to actually complete this in PvE, especially if you're a lower level player, is that as you go through these tasks, they are going to reward you with some insane amounts of XP that aren't really dependent on your level. So they don't scale with level, they are literally just flat XP. And some of the high ones give you incredible amounts. Now, the first one, pretty mediocre. You get 5k XP, 30,000 rubles and some helmets, which isn't bad, but at the end of the day, you're literally just playing a raid and hoping to find one of these mortar strike areas. In terms of the next one, that leads on to In and Out, which you can essentially get given an eye, the eye mortar strike signaling device, which you can use to actually call one in, I believe. And then you've got to actually pick up radar station spare parts. So once you get those, you have to actually find them. Eliminate any 10 targets on any location with mortar strikes. So that was also that. You can find them in the raid, is where you can find those radar station spare parts. Then you hand them in and, of course, take out 10 targets on any location with mortar strikes. So I don't believe you actually have to go to the location of mortar strikes, but you know, we can see. And once you completed that, you will essentially get 23k XP, basically, 80k rubles and 2 military power filters, which is massive because they're going to be quite expensive and they'll net you a decent chunk of profit if you do want to make some money, but obviously you can keep them if you want to upgrade your hideout if you still have that left to do. That leads on to Ours by Right, which is essentially handing over 2 of the Garrizont portable electronic warfare devices, which are also found in raid. Eliminate 10 rogues, so you can do that, or you can locate and neutralize Big Pipe, Bird Eye and Knight, which will also give you rewards. The rewards for completing this task are 60,400 XP, which is pretty good, 200,000 rubles, and you'll get some hand grenades and a variety of different things for ammo, which isn't massive, but at the end of the day, you still get those quite nicely, so a decent addition. That then leads on to Provide Cover, which is stashing radar station spare parts inside the old sawmill hangar on wood, so down by the sawmill where you find Sturman, you can stash it there. And then you've also got yourself stashing a Garrizont portable electronic warfare device in the weather station tower on Shoreline, which is where the goons are going to spawn, which is not ideal, especially on PvE, but hopefully they're going to reduce the actual rate at which the goons spawn, please? Not 100% anymore, please. But that gives you 40k XP, 145,000 rubles. You're getting some magazines and an SR3M, which is nice as well, and some SP6, which is great because you get 6 packs of that, 20 pieces each, 120 rounds, not bad. The location where you have to go, obviously here is the shoreline map. Then you have to go to the old sawmill. This isn't the same sawmill that is typical for wood, so it's not the one where you actually go down to the sawmill in the center where Sturman spawns. It's actually over in the top right of the map, which you can find right here. So this is the normal sawmill. This is where the old sawmill is. So it's over by the Northern UN roadblock. So that is where you want to be going. It is not the normal sawmill. So just be aware of that. So from there, you will then lead on to Cream of the Crop, which is where you get the achievement Highway to the Danger Zone. So this is the achievement for completing kind of the quest line, but there's still an additional quest after this, but this one is finding a COSA UAV electronic jamming device in the raid. Use the transit from shoreline to lighthouse, and then stash the COSA device on the second floor of the yacht club cottage on lighthouse as well. So in terms of where you're going to actually want to extract, it is here. And then the actual cottage or whatever the yacht club, this is where it is. It's like next to the seaside house, so you're going to want to go there and actually stash it. In terms of actually getting the COSA UAV electronic jamming device, it spawns in the airdrop called in by the special yellow RSP flare. The flare can spawn on top of the west wing weather station building roof and the top of the weather station tower, so you're going to want to have to go up there on shoreline to be able to get it, which kind of sucks because the goons, but at the same time you can get it on the top of the west wing as well. So yeah, it should be fairly straightforward to get, and probably the easier one is on top of the west wing of the actual health resort, so definitely go there if you're not wanting to challenge the goons, or just hope that the goons aren't actually there when you do go up to the weather station. But once you call it in, you'll then get the COSA UAV electronic jamming device. From that, travel to lighthouse and then plant it in that location that we showed earlier, and that will give you the achievement Highway to the Danger Zone. This one gives you 52.6 thousand XP, which is crazy good XP as well. Decent amount of rubles. You get 3 bottles of Fierce Hatchling Moonshine, which is great, so that's a couple mil. And then you've got yourself 5 bottles of Pevco Light Beer as well. You get yourself some of the blue RSP30 reactive signal cartridges as well, which I assume that you can call in their actual mortar strikes with those. And then this leads on to the final task, which gives you 108,000 XP, which is hand in 25 found in raid radar station spare parts and hand over 15 found in raid Garrizont portable electronic warfare devices. So yeah, that is going to be long, but if you do it, you get 108,000 XP, which is nice, especially from a new player perspective. I forgot to mention that obviously all of these give you a ton of XP, and overall you probably end up being able to get anywhere from about 300k XP, something like that, between all of the different tasks available, which is pretty good. And of course they should be fairly straightforward to actually complete, except from the last one, which obviously gives you the majority of your XP, but still very, very nice to have these in, and it gives players who have played for a long time or been playing since the start a reason to kind of grind towards getting all of these done and experimenting with the new event itself with the mortar strikes. So you obviously then got the Vulcan 5 LSH, which you do get as a reward. Now they changed the armor class of this from a tier 6 down to a tier 5 in the patch notes, so yeah, not so good, but you know, I guess you can use it. It's got pretty good coverage of your head, so anything to help with that, especially against those shotgun scavs that can just randomly hit you in the top of the head with no warning as well. Yeah, definitely a benefit. But back to the actual news. AI, they've changed a couple of things to the AI, which is mainly to do with Partisan. So obviously Partisan came in with 0.15, but the AI behavioral model when traveling long distances and installing tripwires has been changed as well. So primarily, I assume, getting better. Then obviously there's improved AI movement routes after taking cover to make them smoother and more diverse. So essentially they'll kind of run off, and then I guess they'll move around a bit differently, try and flank or something like that once they've moved to cover, maybe once you've thrown a nade, for example. So making them slightly more engaging, slightly more dynamic, I think is good. Quality of life improvement. So they've got rubles, dollars, euros, and GP coins are no longer found in raid, regardless of whether you get them in the raid, because this is super annoying for when you're trying to actually just put things into your stash and it not actually sorting into one. So that's definitely a help. Balancing changes, they've added some new barters for the Gazelle, which is great for PvE because this is going to be something that you probably want to use. It's a very good body armor, and yeah, having it available at Ragman level, loyalty level 3, pretty good. The 6B43 Zabralo, you can actually purchase from Prapor, loyalty level 4, which I don't believe was available for purchase previously, and it was required for a task, so you couldn't buy it off the flea. And so if you didn't have one actually from the task, or maybe you got taken out when you were using it, you couldn't complete the task until you find one, which, yes, thank you BSG for removing it from sale on the flea and then making it basically impossible to find. But luckily they've actually added it back into Prapor loyalty level 4. Increase the amount of compensation for a successful report of a player. So this is for PvP. If you have a cheater, then you will be able to actually get some compensation back if you do get taken out and you report them properly, not just spam reporting everyone, because everyone is apparently a hacker or cheater in PvP, especially if you get taken out by them. Set the in-raid drop limit for some items to 3 as well, so you can't drop more than that. Adjusted the Vulcan bulletproof, so that goes from 6 to 5 armor points, from 99 to 75, and reduce the cost and the wearing penalties and increase the spawn chance. They've adjusted some tasks as well. So Punisher for Part 5, you can use any variation of the AK-74 rather than having a specific one, and hand over any variation of the Makarov pistol. Added the ability to complete the objective using Packer soft armor as well, Rivals Edition, if you really wanted to use that. Adjusted the task Spartor Part 3, so they added the ability to hand over any variation of WD-40, not just the 100mm. Then you've got a Slaughterhouse task, added the ability to complete the objective using the PR Tehran police baton, so Kolontai baton, and APOC Tactical Wasteland Gladius, or the United Cutlery M48 Tactical Cookery Knife, and then replace the ammo given as rewards for various main and operational tasks with the corresponding ammo packs, rather than the ammo itself. Sounds, they've made some improvements as well, so improved the occlusion of lamp sounds. So yep, I don't exactly know what that is, but they've done it. Hopefully it will make it slightly better. Improve the occlusion of door and container sounds in first and third person. Increase the volume of USEC Charlie voices as well. So the AI, hopefully, if they are a Charlie, you can hear them better. List of changes. So they fixed a ton of issues and stuff. Fixed the missing new bear and USEC clothing in PvE mode. And they've essentially got a couple of other things that you've got in here as well. Fixed an issue causing bots to not respond to player scavs commands, which is good, especially if you like playing scavs. And then, yeah, basically a ton of changes and patches and that sort of stuff. But we can move into the next bit of the video. You can pause it here if you want to have a specific look at some of these if you're interested. But in terms of PvE, I think all of these changes are definitely going to slightly improve the actual overall experience. They're going to give you more stuff to actually do when you do play PvE, and yeah, just make the experience much better, which I think has been definitely the case. We still haven't got some of the key issues solved, which there are a ton of bugs within the PvE mode in specific that still haven't been solved. There's lots of issues with regards to kind of stashes and stuff like that, and I literally have a area of my stash which I can't use because every time I put something in there I just get a back-end error and then it kicks me out, replaces everything that I've moved. Still really annoying. There's a ton of bugs that really do need to get sorted in terms of making the game just more fluid, and especially if they're moving towards patch 1 or version 1 of the actual game where they're going to release it fully. And of course we've still got some of the AI changes. They are not perfect by any means, and continual improvement of them is going to make them better, but you know, adding in some kind of changes that they've made to Partisan and a couple of things after they move behind a box, probably not going to do it. No information as to the difficulty either, the difficulty settings. So for me, I want to add them and ramp them up to as high as possible to make it a bit more challenging, and make it slightly better for me personally. But obviously people might want to make it easier. I think having that option in a single player version of Tarkov is definitely something that you want to do in the long term, but we're still waiting on that. BSG did say that they were going to do that, but still nothing as to when that's actually going to come in. Seasons and stuff like that coming into the game as well, and for PvE you'll be able to pick the season as well, so I would assume in the next month or two we'll be able to do that, as they did kind of hint that that will be coming at the before the next year. So you know, next couple of months I'd expect that to come into the game. And I think as we're kind of, the course for PvE is looking much better, and as the kind of actual wipe goes on for a lot of the PvP content, we'll start to see a lot more ramping up of PvE produced content and some of those fixes to some of the issues that we've got, I hope, and that's what I predict anyway. And yeah, it's just looking up and up for in terms of the actual single player version of Tarkov, and I think people are very happy with some of the things that have been happening on PvP. So generally Tarkov looking pretty good and solid against some of the other competitors as well, just as long as they keep developing the game, trying to actually add new things that are useful rather than just going off on a tangent and creating things that no one asked for. Hopefully that doesn't actually happen, as a lot of games tend to do that, but fingers crossed that doesn't happen, and no oopsies with regards to pricing and making pay to win content, because we definitely don't need that again. But yeah, overall I think it's a very good update. I think it's probably one of the best that we'll kind of see in terms of the transitions between the maps. I think it's been long awaited, and as a single player game, going to be so much kind of fun to just transfer between all the different maps and go between, but that's just my opinion. Maybe you think it's terrible and some other things should have definitely been done first. I agree, there should definitely be AI changes, and I don't want to gloss over that. It is not perfect at all at the moment, but yeah, in terms of actual content additions, it's nice to see some new content coming into the game itself that you can go and do, as opposed to kind of core gameplay issues being fixed, even though I would like that to happen, which it will probably happen, but yeah, it is something to kind of note down. But either way, that has kind of been the video. I just wanted to talk about it, talk about PvE, how it's going, and everything that came in with the latest update. Hopefully, I appreciate that it's a long video, but at the same time, kind of passionate about playing Tarkov, and hopefully you kind of get that. And at the end of the day, you know, if you want to actually see the patch notes in the most condensed form, just go to the article. But I wanted to give my opinion on some of the things and how it's going to impact the game. If you enjoyed, make sure to like the video, and of course you can subscribe down below or check out some of the other videos before you do that if you're not sure. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.